Hello, grade 5. How are you? Today we're going to start chapter 8, lesson 1. The first lesson is called Declaring Independence. If you remember, guys, we stopped last lesson when George Washington started to form the American Army, and he called this army the Continental Army. Okay, let's see how they declared independence. And here I mean by independence, guys, the freedom from the British rule. Okay, so here is, guys, after the battles, if you remember the two battles of last lesson. Okay, the Battle of Concord and the Battle of Lexington. So after these two battles, most of the American colonies knew that they were at war with Britain. Okay, and some of them were agree with this war and encouraging the war against British, but the, some of them or some of the colonists they refused to fight King George III, King of Britain, because they knew that King George, of course, is a strong king, and Britain is a strong and powerful country, and they cannot fight with the British army. Okay, so many of the colonists still thought that King George III is their ruler. Okay, and they didn't want with Britain. Britain is already a powerful country, and they cannot fight against the British army. Okay, but the other half were the patriots. The patriots, no, they need the war and they wanted independence or freedom, okay, from the British rule. Okay, so some of those patriots who didn't want the British government again, some of those patriots, his name is Patrick Henry. Patrick Henry is a patriot from Virginia, and he wrote a speech to encourage the colonists to fight against Britain. He wrote a very important sentence in his speech. This sentence said, "Give me liberty or freedom, or give me death." Okay, so it means that he wanted to be free, and if he not free, of course it means that he is dead. Okay, and there is another patriot, guys. His name is Thomas Paine. Thomas Paine used a written word to argue for independence. It means also he wrote a speech against the British government. Okay, what I want from you guys is to collect, starting from chapter 7, lesson 1, 2, 3, 4, and today's chapter 8, lesson 1. I want you to write the names of every patriot and what did he do in the fight against Britain. Okay. After that, what happened? Two actions very important happened. Okay. The first action, guys, is Thomas Paine common sense. Okay, common sense is a very important speech or pamphlet. Thomas Paine wrote it against Britain. Okay, so here is we have Thomas Paine. So when I ask you who Thomas Paine is, a patriot who wrote common sense. Okay, who wrote common sense? Thomas Paine. Thomas Paine wrote a pamphlet or a speech. This speech is called Common Sense, and that happened in January 1776. Okay, what did he want? This pamphlet or this speech was very brief and was very easy to understand. And he wrote that he didn't want King George again to govern or to rule America. Okay, they wanted to be independent or free from the British government. In a very short time, okay, within few months, this speech or this pamphlet was written by most of the colonists in America. Okay. And here is George Washington. When he read the common sense pamphlet, he said that I find common sense is working a powerful change in the minds of many. It means that this pamphlet encouraged many colonists to fight against Britain. Okay. After that, guys, the Second Continental Congress, the Continental Congress held a meeting and concerning this pamphlet, which was called Common Sense. Of course, many agreed about independence and they want to be free from Britain, okay? But some of them thought that Britain, a powerful country, and they are not ready to fight King George, okay? After that, we have a patriot. His name is John Adams. John Adams, guys, argued strongly for the independence or for the freedom. And also, there is another patriot. His name is Richard Henry Lee. Henry Lee, he asked in the Congress to declare the independence officially. What that mean? If your country, guys, is in war with another country, your country must declare their needs, okay, or they must declare the reasons, okay, why they need freedom. So here is came after common sense. Here is came the Declaration of Independence. This is a second speech, or this is a second pamphlet, okay, that all the colonists declared their freedom, and they wanted to be free from King George III. So here is the Congress asked Thomas Jefferson, and don't forget his name, Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson and four others wrote the Declaration of Independence. You know that declaration, it means like announcement, okay? Declaration, it's something, or this word means announcement of freedom. So when I say Declaration of Independence, this phrase, Declaration of Independence, it means announcement of freedom. They wanted their freedom, okay? They wanted to be free from Britain. So, in this Declaration of Independence, Thomas Jefferson wrote that they wanted the rights, okay? The rights to be free, the rights to not be taxed, the rights to seek happiness, okay? And Thomas Jefferson, guys, argued that the government should protect these rights. It means that if King George the Third is their king, okay, so he must make all the Americans free. He must not tax them. He must not send more soldiers to America. So they needed their freedom. Okay. The ideas in this declaration were not new. Of course, before in many speeches and in many pamphlets, they wrote that they didn't need taxes, they didn't need the soldiers in America, they need to be free. Okay, if you want to take any action, they must have representatives in the British Parliament, and they called for these needs before. Okay, but King George, he didn't answer, and he ignored all these demands. Okay. So, Thomas Jefferson used the ideas that John Locke and other English thinkers had written about. And Jefferson also listed many ways that Britain didn't serve the colonists. If you remember, he said in this declaration that Britain taxed them many times. And you remember how many taxes Britain declared, that Britain sent many soldiers in America, okay, that Britain didn't make anyone feel free, or the rights to be free, the rights to vote, the rights to say their opinions. Okay, so he listed all of these reasons in the Declaration of Independence, and because of these reasons, they wanted their freedom. They wanted to be free. They didn't want again King George to be king of America, okay, or to rule America. Also, we have another patriot, but in this time she is a woman. Okay, her name is Mary Catherine. Mary Catherine, the Congress hired Mary Catherine. She is a painter to print an official copy of Declaration. Okay. After that, if you listed here parts of declaration, what the Declaration of Independence include? Okay, here is let's mark what the Declaration of Independence include. Just 1 minute. Okay. Yes. Okay. First, guys, the text explain that people have rights that they cannot or that can't be taken away. So they declared that people have rights and they need these rights. For example, rights to vote, rights to take part in government. Okay, okay. The second, okay, they have complaints against the king. The declaration have a list of complaints against the king. This is the second point in the declaration. Okay, the last section argues that the colonists have to be free to protect the colonists' rights. So they have to protect the colonists' rights. Again, they make sure about the colonists' rights. It declares that the colonists are independent. They are free. They are independent. And the last them in the last part, okay, at the last bottom of the document, all the delegates to the Congress signed their names. Okay, so they signed their names, and we have the president of the Congress in that time. His name is John Hancock. Okay, John Hancock, don't forget this name. John Hancock was the president of the Continental Congress. Okay, so these are the parts of the declaration. These are the parts of declaration. They need their rights, the right to vote, the right to take part in government. They wrote a list of complaints against the British king. They needed to be protected. Okay, also all of them signed their names all beside the president of the Congress, which his name is John Hancock. Okay, let's erase that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, let's move to the second section. Now, the importance of declaration. You know, guys, when they wrote this declaration, okay, of independence, some of the delegates were very afraid of the king. Why? Because they thought that King George maybe consider this declaration of independence as treason. You know, treason, it means treason, the meaning of treason is the crime of fighting against one's own the government. It means that by this declaration, it means that they declared fight or declared war against the king. Okay, so it's considered as treason. Okay, but because يعني, despite of that, most of the delegates of or most of the representatives in the Continental Congress, they signed with their names. Okay, so the declaration was read aloud in front of many colonists, and the people tore the pictures and the statues of King George. They refused. They declared that we didn't want King George. We didn't want King George. Okay, and all of them celebrated by ringing bells and firing cannons. Boom, boom, boom. The Declaration of Independence marked every moment when Americans choose to rule themselves. Now they wanted to be free. They wanted independence. They didn't want King George again. They wanted they wanted that the Americans could rule themselves. Of course, the declaration is important till nowadays, guys. Okay, uh, we know that the Declaration of Independence didn't give all Americans the rights that happened in the beginning, of course. When America declared their independence, not all the Americans took the rights. You know that there were some differences between black and white people, women and men, especially that we have a woman right in the time or wrote in the time. Her name is Abigail Adams. This woman wrote in the new code of laws, remember the ladies. It means that she called for the rights of the woman to be equal with the men. Okay, so despite the Declaration of Independence called for freedom for every American citizen, okay, but in the beginning it didn't apply to all. There were some differences between black and white people, and also there were some differences between women and men. That's in the beginning, but after that, after the war, all the Americans took the rights and no difference between black or white and women or men. And you're gonna study this later, guys. Later on in the next lessons, we're gonna take how all the Americans took their rights equally. Okay, this was our lesson today. You read it again, and if you need any question about this lesson, contact me anytime. But what I want from you, please, 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 a special request is to write or collect from chapter 7, lesson 1 till this lesson, to collect all the patriot names and write each person rule in this war against the British. Okay. Thank you guys for listening. See you next time, inshallah. Bye bye.